US presidential candidate Donald Trump injured in shootings incident at rally. At least 90 Palestinians killed in Israeli strikes on Al-Mawasi camp. Good afternoon, Salam Malaysia Madani. I'm Jessica Lee and you're watching World Today. Donald Trump was rushed off stage smeared in blood after a series of gunshots were fired at a campaign rally in Pennsylvania.
Look at what happened.
The apparent shooting took place shortly after Trump took the stage at his final campaign rally before the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee next week. The rally in Butler, Pennsylvania descended into scenes of chaos as bangs were heard and screams and shouts rang out. Agents bundled the 78-year-old tycoon into an SUV as he once more raised his fist to the crowd. The Secret Service and the former president's campaign said Trump was safe. U.S. media reported that the suspected shooter was confirmed dead along with one bystander. A second bystander may also have been hit. The shocking incident will fuel anxiety in a country already on the edge about the prospect of unrest and political harassment in the run-up to the November election battle between Trump and President Joe Biden. The White House said Biden has received an initial briefing by the head of the Secret Service and the Secretary of Homeland Security. Meanwhile, President Biden led the condemnation and called for an end to political violence after his election rival was wounded in the incident.
To the telephone, look, there's no place in America for this kind of violence. It's sick. It's sick. It's one of the reasons why we have to unite this country. We cannot allow for this to be happening. Bottom line is that the Trump rally was a rally that he should have been able to be conducted peacefully without any problem. But the idea that there's political violence or violence in America like this is just unheard of. It's just not appropriate. Everybody.
Biden's former boss, Barack Obama, echoed his words in a statement saying there was absolutely no place for political violence in democracy. Former President George W. Bush condemned the cowardly attack. Tech billionaire Elon Musk said Saturday that he fully endorses Trump after the rally violence as he shared a video of Trump pumping his fist while being escorted away by Secret Service officials. At least 90 Palestinians were killed and more than 300 were injured in an Israeli attack in southern of Gaza. Now, the attack hit tents housing displaced people in Khan Yunis. The Israeli military said it had targeted Hamas's military chief Mohammad Deif, but it was unclear whether he was killed. The Hamas-run media office said at least 100 people had been killed and wounded, including members of the Civil Emergency Service. In Al-Mawasi, AFP TV footage showed sirens wailing and smoke rising in the distance as men used blankets to collect victims. Some were clearly beyond help and lay dead on the road. The deaths in Al-Mawasi, where aid groups said hundreds of thousands of people were sheltering, drew condemnation from governments across the region. Turkey called the attack an Israeli bid to annihilate the Palestinians entirely, while Egypt said the Israeli violations add serious complications to achieving a ceasefire deal. While the UN expert on Palestine, Francesca Albanese, said she was disgusted by the world's tolerance of Israel's impunity, which is enabling the genocidal war. The Organization of Islamic Cooperation considers the attack an extension of the crime of genocide that the Israeli occupation continues to commit against Palestinian civilians. Palestinians took to the streets to condemn the massacre of committed or the massacre committed by Israel on the designated humanitarian zone that killed at least 90 Palestinians. Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh on Saturday accused Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of seeking to block a ceasefire deal. The head of the political bureau of the group called on international mediators to act following 2 attacks in Gaza that killed more than 100 people. Israeli strike on the Al-Mawasi camp for displaced persons left at least 90 dead and 300 wounded, with at least 20 other people killed in a strike on a makeshift mosque at Al-Shati refugee camp in northern Gaza. Hamas, in a statement, said Haniyeh contacted officials in Qatar and Egypt, as well as Oman and Turkey, to discuss the brutal massacres. Meanwhile, thousands of Israeli protesters flooded the main highway in Jerusalem on Saturday, calling for the release of hostages held in Gaza. Protesters started their solidarity march in Tel Aviv 3 days ago and arrived in Jerusalem as news emerged of an Israeli airstrike that killed at least 90 Palestinians. Israel said the attack targeted Hamas military chief Mohammed Deif. However, it was unclear whether Deif was killed. For the protesters in Jerusalem, the attack was a distraction on a ceasefire deal. Netanyahu has been under tremendous pressure from the people to agree on truce deal and bring back the hostage after 7 months into war. 5 civilians were killed by Russian fire on Saturday in Ukraine, with 1 missile attack carried out after emergency services had arrived at the scene of an earlier attack. Now, a police officer and an emergency rescue official were killed by that second strike in the village of Budy in Ukraine's northeastern Kharkiv region. Regional Governor Oleg Sinihubov said that half an hour had passed between the first and the second strike, adding that Russia purposefully targeted the first responders. He added 22 people were injured, including 5 railway workers. The Ukrainian army said in its daily update that the Kharkiv region, which has been the focus of a new Russian offensive for the past 2 months, was under constant bombardment by Russian aircraft. Now, Moscow has repeatedly denied targeting civilians and civilian infrastructure, although its attacks have killed thousands of civilians since it launched its invasion in February 2022. Pakistan's Imran Khan and his third wife were acquitted on charges of marrying unlawfully by a Pakistani court on Saturday. But the former Prime Minister is facing a fresh arrest warrant and will not be freed from jail. Now, the ruling came a day after his Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf, or the PTI party, won more seats in parliament, ramping up pressure on the country's fragile ruling coalition, which is grappling to stabilize a broken economy. The couple were sentenced to 7 years in February when the court found them guilty of breaking Islamic law by failing to observe the required interval between the divorce from a previous marriage of Bushra Khan and her marriage to Khan. Now, they had filed an appeal against their convictions. The prosecution failed to prove its case against the couple, and both appellants were acquitted and directed to be released forthwith, if not required to be detained in any other case. Khan's PTI party said authorities have issued fresh arrest warrants for him in 3 cases linked to violence against the military and other state installations that erupted following his brief arrest in May 2023. The party called it a gimmick aimed at prolonging his imprisonment. Now, all 4 jail sentences Khan received ahead of a February national election have now been overturned or suspended. Jailed since last August, he was acquitted last month of charges of leaking state secrets, and 2 other corruption sentences have been suspended. The PTI has warned that keeping Khan in jail despite Saturday's decision will deepen a political crisis that has crippled the country. French Sports Minister took a symbolic dip in the Seine in a bid to ease concerns about water quality before the start of the Paris Olympics. Amelia Odea Castera, dressed in a bodysuit, dove into the famous river after an initial slip and swam a few meters near the Alexander III Bridge where the Olympic Open water swimming competition will be held.
C'est une émotion indescriptible. En fait, on en rêvait, on l'attendait. Il y a un travail monumental qui a été fait depuis des années par tout un collectif de gens et on va y arriver. Grâce au jeu, on va être au rendez-vous de cette baignabilité.
Odea Castera told BFM TV after swimming alongside French triathlete Alexis Hanquiquan. The triathlon and marathon swimming legs of the Olympics, which runs until the 11th of August, are due to be held in the Seine. Now, the famous river was used in the 1900 Paris Olympics. However, some Parisians said they wouldn't take a dip in the River Seine even after seeing the sports minister swimming in the capital's famed river.
So I'm not a scientist. I haven't seen any statistics. I don't know what kind of testing they're doing or how they're cleaning it up, but if this is the results they're getting, that's great. I hope nobody gets any skin disease during the Olympics. I'm sorry to say that.
Now, anti-tourism activists have increasingly staged protests in Spain's seaside cities like Barcelona, Palma de Mallorca and Malaga, claiming that visitors drive up housing costs, leaving residents unable to afford to live in city centres. In Costa Blanca, hundreds of locals protested against mass tourism in the Spanish city of Alicante.
El alquiler ha subido, no hay viviendas que podamos acceder quienes estamos sirviendo las cervezas al turista, así que queremos que se ponga un límite a este turismo masivo, queremos otro modelo de turismo que no se base en la explotación de personas ni en la explotación de recursos.
The protesters chanted mass tourism destroys our neighborhood as they marched through downtown Alicante while tourists watched from bar terraces.
I do understand in some ways why they're doing it, but really it's a big world and everyone travels and we all need to have tourism in every country.
According to Excel Tour, tourists staying in Spanish holiday homes increased by 24% in the second quarter of this year, while only 11% more opted for hotels. Now, critics say this disparity further fuels the housing crisis in Spain. Coming up, Krejcikova clinches maiden Wimbledon title. That and more in our sports segment. And kicking off our sports segment this afternoon, the heat is on in Berlin as England and Spain arrive in the German capital ahead of their clash for the title of the best team in Europe tomorrow morning. Now, with one side looking to claim their maiden European trophy and the other seeking to relive their glory as the best European country in football arena. England manager Gareth Southgate said he does not believe that fate is guiding the Three Lions to Euro 2024 glory, but it's dreaming of ending a 58-year wait to win a major tournament in Sunday's final against Spain.
To represent my country as a player and then to be able to lead my country for 8 years as a manager has been the biggest privilege I could possibly have. So tomorrow I don't have any fear of what might happen because I've been through everything. I want the players to feel that fearlessness. I want them to be able to be the best version of themselves because whatever happens, we're so strong as a group, we support each other.
Meanwhile, English captain Harry Kane, who has been looking to win a major tournament for the first time despite his prolific career, said England had been consistent throughout the tournament and it will continue into the final.
Yeah, I think it shows unbelievable consistency, first and foremost. I think, a lot of us after that final were obviously heartbroken with the result, and as always, it's always a long journey back to getting to where we are now. So full credit to the boys for the resilience that we've shown, and I think that just speaks volumes for the mentality of the squad. So extremely happy to be in this situation and to be back in another European final. And
as for Spain, its coach Luis de la Fuente called on a brilliant generation of players to make history for their country in the Euro 2024 final against England on Sunday. La Roja are aiming to win a record fourth European Championship 12 years after they last lifted the trophy.
Estamos convencidos que si estamos aquí y cómo se ha desarrollado toda la Europa es porque hemos sido nosotros fieles a nuestro estilo, a nuestra idea. Y comentaba antes con los compañeros, nosotros vamos a seguir siendo fieles a nuestra idea, porque creemos que en esa idea también nos da esas opciones de competir con un equipo contra Inglaterra potentísimo, que no ha perdido, etcétera, etcétera. Pero siempre fieles a nuestra idea. Yo creo que lo que tenemos que tratar de transmitir a todos es seguridad. Esa es mi responsabilidad, transmitir seguridad a los jugadores y convencerles de que ese es el camino.
Spain won the 2008 and 2012 Euros and the 2010 World Cup with many star players from Barcelona and Real Madrid, including Andrés Iniesta, Xavi Hernandez, Sergio Ramos, and David Villa. The current side has fewer stars, but consider that one of their strong points, with the squad on an even footing and unity, has been a key word among Spain players at the tournament. Now, England will take on Spain tomorrow morning in what would be an eventful clash for the two sides seeking to be crowned as the best team in Europe. Elsewhere, Colombia coach Nestor Lorenzo says his team will need to be at the peak of their powers if they are to beat world champions Argentina and triumph in Copa America trophy clash. Colombia faces Argentina tomorrow at the Hard Rock Stadium in Miami Gardens, and Lorenzo believes that efforts need to be multiplied in order to stand any chance of adding a second Copa title to their 2001 triumph.
El trámite del partido son dos equipos que proponen, que quieren jugar, que Argentina de pronto, aun cuando no tiene la pelota, es peligroso, cuando deja a sus jugadores descolgados. Nosotros tenemos algo parecido también. Son dos equipos creo que bastante parecidos. Argentina con un proceso más largo y con logros ya obtenidos, nosotros con hambre.
Colombia are unbeaten in their last 28 matches, with 25 of those results coming since Argentine coach Lorenzo took charge of the team. But while the 58-year-old has seen his team continue to evolve and improve during his tenure, he knows that a final against Lionel Messi and company will require plenty of adjustments during the game. Argentine coach Lionel Scaloni said he does not plan to break with his tried and tested formula with a team that has been together throughout his reign, winning the Copa America in Brazil in 2021 before their triumph at the World Cup in Qatar the following year.
Con pasión, no con violencia, creo que es un método donde todos podemos sacar muchas emociones, sensaciones y muchos sentimientos, pero siempre con el respeto hacia el rival, siempre respetando la vida del otro, de las personas que no tienen nada que ver. Y que bueno, nosotros dentro del campo tratar de darle un buen espectáculo para que la gente se sienta identificada con su equipo.
Argentina are searching for a third straight major tournament win and for a record 16th Copa America title, while Colombia are hoping they can win the continental crown for just the second time. Let's take a look at tennis. Barbora Krejcikova of the Czech Republic defeated Italy's Jasmine Paolini to win the Wimbledon women's title on Saturday for her second Grand Slam singles triumph. Krejcikova, the 31st seed, won 6-2, 2-6, 6-4 to add to the 2024 All England Club crown to her 2021 French Open victory. Paolini, the first Italian woman to reach a Wimbledon singles final, had to save 2 break points in the third game, but she cracked under the strain again as the composed Czech stormed into a double break ahead for 4-1. Krejcikova moved to 3 set points in the 8th game and only needed 1 as Paolini dumped a backhand return into the net. The nerve-wracked Italian managed to claim just 4 points on the Czech's serve in the 35-minute opener. Krejcikova hit 10 winners to the Italians' 5. Paolini dashed off centre court for a bathroom break and returned re-energized. She had also dropped the first set in her marathon semi-final triumph over Donna Vekic, and on Saturday she launched another second set fight back. Now, breaks in the 2nd and 8th games leveled the final after a set in which Krejcikova made 14 unforced errors to 7 for her opponent, taking her double fault count to a tournament high of 33. The Czech managed just 4 winners in set as she went spectacularly off the boil. However, momentum shifted dramatically back in her favour in the decider when Paolini double faltered to surrender a break and fall 3-4 behind. Krejcikova held to love for 5-3 but endured a nervy conclusion, requiring 3 championship points and saving 2 break points in the 10th game to seal the title. Meanwhile, in doubles category, Britain's Henry Patton and Finland's Harry Hiliovaara beat Australians Mac Purcell and Jordan Thompson 6-7, 7-6, 7-6 in the men's doubles final at Wimbledon on Saturday to clinch their first Grand Slam titles. The unseeded duo of Patton and Hiliovaara started playing together only 3 months ago, but ousted seeded pairs en route to the final to meet the Australians who had knocked out the top seeds Marcel Grenoble and Horacio Zeballos in the semi-finals. Remarkably, the match had no breaks of serve as each set went into a tiebreak, and with the pressure increasing with each game, Patton and Hiliovaara saved 3 championship points to force a decider. After nearly 3 hours on court, it was Patton who stepped up in the tiebreak as the former Wimbledon statistician and his Finnish partner edged the Australians to win the match, receiving a standing ovation from the centre court crowd. In the women's doubles final, American Taylor Townsend captured her first Grand Slam title as she and Czech partner Katarina Siniakova beat Canadian Gabriela Dabrowski and New Zealand's Erin Routliffe. With the rest of the All England club in darkness at the end of a long day, Townsend and Siniakova shone under the illuminated centre court roof to win 7-6, 7-6 in what was only their 10th match playing together. In cycling, Tadej Pogačar extended his overall lead on the Tour de France when he won stage 14 in the Pyrenees on Saturday. Now, ahead of another monster run in the Pyrenees on Sunday, Pogačar extended his lead to 1 minute 57 seconds over Vingegaard as Evenepoel dropped to third at 2 minutes 22 seconds. With bonus seconds for the win, his 13th Tour de France stage victory, Pogačar extended his lead by 43 seconds. Now, Pogačar's team, UAE, waited until the third and final climb of the day before sending Adam Yates on an attack 7 kilometers from the line on the 11-kilometer ascent to the Pla d'Ade. Now, the English driver was waiting to help after the Slovenian launched his own attack. When Pogačar unleashed a ferocious acceleration, his 2 podium rivals followed, but were either unwilling or unable to match the pace. Over the final section of a climb, packed on either side by raucous fans, 2020 and 2021 champion Pogačar kept up his pace all the way to the line after dropping Yates. Let's have a look at our assortment of colourful stories in our Offbeat segment. Irish rock and blues star Rory Gallagher's 1961 Fender Stratocaster guitar, described as the most recognizable Strat in rock history because of its worn appearance, is headed for auction later this year with an estimated price of up to $1.28 million. Gallagher bought the electric guitar in 1963 for £100 on credit from the owner of Crowley's Music Store in the southern Irish city of Cork and played it up throughout his career.
and this was the guitar he used from then, from 1963, right up until his passing in 1995. There's also a legend that says that this is the first Fender Stratocaster that came into Ireland, so it's also an important Fender guitar as well as an important Rory Gallagher guitar.
The Stratocaster, which has a price estimate of £700,000 to £1 million, is the leading lot for the Rory Gallagher's collection auction, which will be held on the 17th of October in London, and features around 150 items, including other guitars, amps, and accessories. Gallagher died in 1995, aged 47, and the items are being offered for sale by his family. His Stratocaster has featured in exhibitions and has been played by other guitarists such as Joe Bonamassa and Johnny Marr. Large swaths of the Atacama Desert, the driest on the planet, have been covered with purple and white flowers after unusual rainfall patterns in northern Chile. Normally, such a desert bloom occurs every few years in the southern springtime, if and when conditions are just right, blanketing thousands of square kilometers. But the flowers are making an appearance now in winter, something that hasn't happened since 2015. Now, while the famed spring flowers desert spreads over 15,000 square kilometers, this winter efflorescence is covering only a few hundred square kilometers. When the bloom is at its peak, more than 200 plant species blossom.
Es una emoción profunda porque este es un fenómeno único en el mundo, es realmente emocionante que llega al alma esta belleza, esta bondad de la naturaleza.
Recent weather conditions appear to have mainly suited the Pata de Guanaco, a purple flower that barely requires water and prefers sandy sites. Now, scientists have not yet determined whether this phenomenon, also recorded in the winter of 2015, is directly related to climate change or to the El Nino or La Nina phenomena. Brazilian Amazon artist P.V. Diaz paints a vibrant jaguar sculpture beneath the Christ the Redeemer statue in Rio de Janeiro. The sculpture is part of the Jaguar Parade set to be showcased at Casa Brazil in Paris during the Olympics, highlighting jaguar conservation and habitat preservation. Additionally, 66 other large feline sculptures by Brazilian artists adorn popular Rio de Janeiro tourist spots like Sugarloaf Mountain and Arpoado Beach. At the end of the exhibition, the sculptures will be auctioned and funds will be redistributed to conservation projects. Nowadays, the animal is officially extinct in the United States, very rare to spot in Mexico, and has almost disappeared from the pampas and most of the northeast, southeast, and southern regions of Brazil. And that's all from us this afternoon. In our top story today, U.S. presidential candidate Donald Trump injured in shootings at rally. Do join us again tonight at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 and saluran Berita RTM. I'm Jessica Lee. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you for watching.